Welcome to Elements of Art. As you can see, we are going to start with part 1 because I can't get all of the slides into one program. So you're still going to be tested on both sections just all together. This gives you an opportunity to stop and go and do something else and come back. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you enjoy the art section. Between the two sections, we're going to look at all of these elements of art. Line, color, value, which is a subset of color but very important, shapes, forms, space, and texture. Line is the path of a moving point. It is a mark left by a tool, a brush, a pencil, a stick in mud, a pen. When you were looking at cuneiform in Mesopotamia, that's also a line. It defines the edges of shapes and form, and they really don't exist naturally because you have to decide where and how to place the line as you draw it. That is what you do as you write. That's what an artist does. Line often suggests movement in a drawing or a painting. There are 3 basic properties of line: horizontal, diagonal, and vertical. And the first we'll start with horizontal. Horizontal lines follow the horizon line. The horizontal or the horizon line is, the general definition is where the sky and the land meet. So look at this painting and see where the sky and the land meet. When they are dominant in a work, that is the horizon or the horizontal line, there's really strong, resting, relaxful, almost a peaceful feeling within the work of art. The direction of the line is important because it controls the viewer's eye movement. Now, if you look at this at the bottom of your page on the left, what I've shown you is all of the horizontal lines. What I like about this little stick drawing at the bottom is that it shows the diagonals. So you see the diagonals in the people and the oar, and that's the only movement you see. The rest of it is very calm and very peaceful. Diagonal lines are placed at an angle in the composition. They are neither horizontal or vertical, and they imply motion. Now this painting, look at the diagram below. You see it's triangles. When we get to the Romantic period, we'll identify this painting for you, and it's painted in color. But usually this is said to have 2 triangles, the triangle of death and the triangle of life. So if you will look on the left side of the painting, you'll see people are dead and dying. And if you look on the right side, there's life and there's hope. And actually the people on the right side actually see a ship in the far distance, and they're trying to get its attention in order for them to be rescued. Vertical lines are straight up and down lines in a composition, and it creates a sense of stability. There's often a sense of structure and poise about a work that has vertical lines. And of course, well, maybe not of course, but this is a non-objective piece. It's very structured and it's stable. The next thing we're going to look at is the measure of a line. No, not that we're going to measure it, but how thick is the line? How thin is it? How short? How fat? How long is the line? And I chose this painting by Zdeněk Sikora. It was painted in 1988. This is your credit line. It hangs in the Prague Gallery, and it's 59 inches by 59 inches. And what I wonder, of course I haven't counted, is how many lines are in there? Does this mean that this painting is line number 50? Is this painting number 50? Or are there 50 lines in this painting? I was very intrigued by this painting because of the texture and how the richness of it and how it used color. Just a little bit of yellow. Look at the top in the corner. The next thing I'd like for you to look at is the character of the line and if it shows emotional qualities. And this is greatly dependent on the nature of the artistic media that the artists use. When I say media, I mean the type of color that you're going to put on a canvas mainly. Is it chalk? Is it charcoal? Is it watercolor? Is it acrylic? Is it fresco? All of those things you should ask. So look at this diagram, and can you locate the lines that might show feeling? What lines look somber or tired or energetic or brittle? What are your feminine lines, depending on what you think feminine is? So try and give some of these lines a definition. I love this piece. The images have a lot of organic flowing lines, and it describes the subject matter. This was created with color pencil, and it's full of energy and it's full of mystery. How many animals do you find in this image? And if you could give this colored pencil piece an emotional title in one word, what would you entitle it? Look very careful for the animals. There's snakes, there's lions, there's owls, there's a kangaroo, there's fish, there's elephant. Just stop this and look and see. There's an ostrich, and see what you can find. The colors of the rainbow are always arranged in the same order because of the length of the individual light rays. Remember, when we see a rainbow, it's because light is breaking down through the raindrops like a prism. The name we have to remember is Roy G. Biv. Now, some of my students in the lecture class said that they remember Roy G. Biv from biology. Others say from physics. I learned it when I was taking a theatrical lighting course. The order stands for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, which is also known as purple. Indigo is a blue-violet color. And why is it listed like other colors, like yellow, orange, and blue-green? I'm not really sure. Color is the most expressive element of art, and we see color because it reflects light off of surfaces. And light has to be present for there to be color. The three properties of color are hue, which is the name of the color, intensity, the purity and strength of a color, and value, the lightness or the darkness of a color. People discovered that white light can be broken apart using tools like prisms of the spectroscope that you see. The colors of this visible light spectrum are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Roy G. Biv. White light consists of all of colors mixed together. I'll say that again. White light consists of all colors mixed together. So when you go outside and it's really bright and it's really white, it's all of the colors mixed together. If an object absorbs all of the light and the wavelengths, it will appear black. If it reflects all of them, it'll appear white. If it absorbs all of the wavelengths except for red, then you will see red. Artists have invented a lot of different media that imitate the colors of light. And so sometimes painters will use powdered pigment to reproduce the colors of the rainbow. So we're going to look at some more ways that color expresses itself as we continue. These are the primary colors. Primary colors are red, blue, and yellow. Why do we call them primary colors? Because primary colors cannot be made from any other color. Primary colors are what every other color is based on. Yellow, red, and blue. These three colors are primary or basic and can be used to make all the other colors in the world. All right, this is the first property. Hue is another word for color, and it basically means the pigment of a color. So hue means the color pigment. All of these that you are looking at are the basic hue of red. Value is the second property of color. Value involves the lightness and the darkness of a color. A color is made lighter by adding white and darker by adding black. Now, if you look at the first row, it shows the natural value of each full-strength color. So you have yellow, orange, green, red, blue, and purple. And it started with white, but you can hardly see it there. When you add black to a color, it's we call it a shade, and it's a darker. So think of A, all the A's in there, and that means that you're going to add black for shade. For tint, look at the I, tint, lighter white, all I for vowels, you're going to add white. You know, someone asked me, and it's very interesting, so when we tint the windows of our car, why do we call that tinting? Shouldn't we be lightening the windows of the car? And that made sense, but I just said, you know, in the English language, sometimes we give words different meanings. So when we put the darkening on our cars to shade the windows, we should be calling that we're going to shade the windows and not tint them. I wanted to, again, give you a look at value. On your left, you have light pink and a medium pink, and that's where the lighter the pink, the more white that's in there. And then on your right, we've added black. So that is the only thing we have done to red, is we've added dark or light. Some value scales of each of the colors might take a few more steps to make some lighter and some darker. So you look at the purples and the blues and the greens, it takes a little bit more to make them darker, and also the reds. But yellow and orange doesn't take as much to make them darker. It takes a little bit more to make them lighter. So notice how value shifts those colors and how much or how little it might take. The next property is intensity. And it says intensity is the brightness or the dullness of a color. Hue plus complement equals tone. Tone makes hue lower intensity. So what is color complement? It is the color that's directly across from the other color on the color wheel. Green is the complement of red. All colors can't be made brighter than the way the pigment comes out of the tube. So if it comes out a really bright red, you can't do anything to make it brighter, but you can do things to make it duller. Well, and when I put red and green next to each other, it actually makes the two colors appear to be brighter because they complement each other. The left example has high intensity. It's very bright. And the right example is low intensity. It's very dull, and it's because of the color that has been added. What's the complementary color of yellow or the complementary color of red? And that's how we would lower the intensity. In this example, full strength orange is on the left, and it slowly has added a little bit of blue. Its complement, that's its complement color. This creates a tone of range of orange. That's the tone. As you progress across the scale, you reach neutral in the center because there's too much blue mixed with orange, and it's become a neutral color. So that's the fourth one in. Looks kind of grayish black. And then if you start on the right with blue and slowly add orange, then you reach the neutral center again. Or you can, so you see with the complementary color, if I'm adding orange to the blue, then I'm going to get to that neutral, or I'm adding blue to the orange. Eventually I will get to that neutral. I found this and I thought that it was pretty great that I could find the color on the internet. Love that internet, really I do. So we have the primary color of red, blue, and yellow, and when you look at the center and you combine them, then it's black. So in paint, we're going to get black when we mix all colors, or that you'll really kind of ugly brown when you pour all the paint in one bucket, or we're going to get white when we mix all colors in light. These are your complementary colors. I put this wheel at the last. I probably should have moved it sooner, but you have red and yellow make orange, yellow and blue make green, and blue and red make purple. Purple, orange, and green are your secondary colors. It's also called complementary colors. Now, we have the same composition but with warm and cool dominants, because you're also going to want to look, color is so exciting and complicated all at the same time. On your left, you have warm colors, and it suggests heat and fire and flame. And look at the colors that you use for warm colors: red, orange, and yellow. For cool colors, it suggests water, grass, and shadow. And you have your blue, green, and your violet or your purple. These groups of colors create a different emotional reaction. I told my students about a study that I read about a few years ago where they painted a room blue and they painted a room yellow, and people who were in the yellow room seemed slightly agitated. It was at a college in a classroom, and the ones in the blue room seemed to be a bit calmer. I chose this painting because Monet was an Impressionist painter, and we are going to talk about that. Make sure you read about him in your book. And cool colors, again, I'll remind you, are mostly green, blue, and violet. And cool colors can make you feel cooler because they physically slightly decrease your circulation and body temperature. And they've done biofeedback where they really know how color manipulates us. So Monet painted this water lily pond from sun up to sundown because he wanted to know how light affected nature and how it changed colors. Obviously, this is a warm painting. You have your oranges and your yellows and your reds. This is painted by Vincent van Gogh, and it's called Sunflowers. And notice his signature right at the line on the vase. This artist is a post-impressionistic artist. He led a very interesting life. If you're still looking for a subject, he would be a good subject to talk about. This painting is by Piet Mondrian. Did he selectively use one color family? Absolutely. What color family was that? Primary colors on a white background. Most people would ask, what was he painting? Well, if you knew the title of this painting, which I'm going to tell you, think about what does it look like? What do you think this is before I tell you the title of this painting? It's a famous street in New York where all the theaters are concentrated. It's called the Theater District, and Broadway is where the major musicals are performed. And if you're familiar with the term boogie woogie, even though we don't have any diagonals, it seems to have movement just by how he uses color. And look at all the right angles. So there's some definite choices that Mondrian is making in this piece. I look at it as an aerial view. I'm in an airplane flying over and looking at Broadway in New York. Look at this wonderful painting. What strikes you at first glance? Chances are you notice the colors used first. And why do you think this is so? Well, I think it's because the artist used complementary colors, or those colors that are opposite on the color wheel. And this really creates an exciting painting. Plus, if you use line, you look at the diagonal of the horses, so you have that diagonal, and then the diagonal of the piece of the people and the curvilinear lines. There's a lot of things that make this piece move. The colors appear very intense together. Has the artist done this intentionally? What does the artist want you to feel about the message within this painting? The people in the carousel are red, golds, and oranges, and the horses and clouds are white, violets, and blue. What parts of this painting did you notice first? Notice the color scheme in this painting. Do you recall which color family the artist used? This is a monochromatic painting. It means the artist used one true color and added black or white. So what would be the one true color that the artist used to add black or white? The tints and the shades that the artist might have used. And how does a monochromatic color scheme affect the overall mood of this piece? Have you figured out the color? It's red. Value is the last element we're going to do in this section, and then we'll go on to part 2. Take notice of the different rectilineal shapes that have the value change them and help them look more three-dimensional. The lighter values are in the emphasis area with darker values surrounding. Tea time. by Jen Mitzinger, 1911, oil, 30 inches by 28 inches, and it hangs in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. This is a Cubist style of painting, which is very much like Picasso. And take the time to see what she's wearing, the cup, the spoon, the wrap she has around her, what's in the background. All of this is very intentional. I know that we talked about value within color, but we also had to talk about the monochromatic value. There are 100 variances of value, but we can easily identify the 10 steps of value within this work of art. Just looking at this and looking at the value, can you point out the 10 steps in the eye? Value. And this is how we view value in art. The light source, where is it coming from? It's coming from the upper left. The highlight area of the ball, that light is there because the light strikes the object and then it bounces off. The light area is where the object is illuminated but not highlighted. So the light strikes the ball, and then the highlight area is because of the light that strikes the object and bounces off. The shadow area is where the object is falling into darkness. We start to see it fall into darkness. The core of the shadow is the darkest area of the shadow area, and it's the furthest from the light source. So that's your core shadow. And then you see that little light down at the bottom where it says reflected light? Even though that's away from the light source, that's because the light has bounced off its surrounding area, and that's where you see that little lighted area. When you really look at it, there's so much detail in this ball, but you really have to stop and look for it. And the last one is the cast shadow, the shadow that it has cast. And if you think about it, when you see art without a shadow and without the shading, it feels really flat. So as we look at some of the art, start looking for the shadow and the shading and the reflected light. When you don't see it, that's when it feels like a very flat dimensional painting. All right, we're at the end of this section. So you can go get your cup of coffee, drink your grape knee-high, go watch your favorite television show, and then come back and listen to part 2.